Welcome, guys. This is Social Anxiety Inside Out, session number 33. And this week, I'm happy to say we have a guy called Jeff Rader. Is it pronounced Rader, actually?
Yeah, it is, usually.
Yeah, and Jeff and I met on Facebook and had quite a connection on there, as much as you can in social media. But, you know, we've shared some stuff and just really moved by Jeff's story, really. So I wanted to get him on this hangout and just have a chat with him about his, his road to recovery, really. The title of the talk is "I've Been Worse," and Jeff will explain what that means, because I didn't get it at first, but it makes sense when he explained it. So welcome, Jeff. Thank you for coming, mate. How's it going?
I've been worse. I have no idea why you've asked me, but I am delighted to be here. Thanks, Steve.
It's my pleasure. Well, it's great that you're so modest, I can relate to the way you're feeling. You know, when I started doing these, I'm thinking, who am I to be able to help other people? But, you know, just sharing our stories is a powerful thing, and what you've been through, and you know, it's a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. If I talk and you talk, it seems like that might be confusing, so I'm not sure how this works. But yeah. I am delighted to be here.
Thank you. Well, I'll just start off by asking you, if it's okay, just to talk a bit about your earlier years and stuff, and how you kind of got into.
Yeah. I think the important part starts in 2009. I was originally I've heard enough drunkalogs. I'm not going to tell you one. I drank now and then. Mostly I drank now, and then I puked, and then I passed out, and then I blacked out, and then I lied about it. And that story's familiar to a lot of people. In 2005, I thought my problem was ADHD, and so I was seeing a psychiatrist, and he told me he would prescribe nothing for me so long as I was drinking. So my initial attempt at recovery had to do with getting more medication, and but it was there that I was introduced to the three principles. I was absolutely devout at the time about my atheism, and I'm hearing an echo here, so it's a little disconcerting. I'm hearing the sound in the background.
Is it coming from?
I think I'm hearing your speakers through your microphone.
Is that okay now? I'll just mute it and then.
I'm still hearing me talk. You know what I can do? I can just lower my speakers so it's not disconcerting for me. Okay, here we go. Wave your hand if you want to say something, please. I won't be able to hear you. And so 2005, I went to a treatment facility here in St. Paul. We're blessed with a number of three principles practitioners here. And I was introduced to the Serenity Principle by Joe Bailey. I also read The Enlightened Gardener, and I immediately got the idea behind thought. Consciousness and mind, that confused me a little bit, but I started attending meetings at that time, and I wasn't continuously sober. 2009, I found myself. I met what I refer to as, I met God. I met G-O-D, the gift of desperation. I'd used my best thinking to get me to where I was, and I was in a really low place. And so with the help of some stuff I read in the big book and some stuff by Andrew Newberg and Sid, I came to have an appreciation for the spiritual side of life, and for Sid's concept of mind. I've recently heard both Mark Abrams and Michael talk about mind being a profoundly important part of this. And the 12 steps, basically, it tells you in the chapter to the agnostic, if you don't find a higher power, you're going to die. And that's where I was in 2009, as I decided to look at what I believed to be true. And turned out nothing I believed to be true actually was. So I kind of reversed direction. And since then, I've been a student of these principles. I consider them to be kind of a doorway to what is real in life. And I am just profoundly delighted to be doing what I do as often as I do it.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That my own dialogue is still going in the background. There's a pretty significant lag, and so I'm not sure what to do about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we just have to carry on. But
well, that kind of leaves me running a monologue. I can't talk in response to you very well.
I'll tell you what. If I ask you a question, and then you can turn your sound down so it doesn't distract you. And
okay.
Then, yeah. So I just wanted you to talk a bit more around what you heard when you came across these principles. Do you remember, like, your first insight into the way you were doing things, and how that changed it?
Initially, I got thought, but I used thought for almost 4 years to explain why other people were wrong. I pretty much saw myself as the creator of thought. My attitude improved tremendously, but I was still the center of the universe as far as I was concerned. And it wasn't until in looking at what I did know to be true in the absence of my concept of a higher power or God, I discovered that this is not revolutionary. We don't have a new Big Bang every Tuesday. The weather today, for instance, is based on what it was yesterday, and there have been changes going on for many, many, many years. Slowly, we've evolved to this place, and it was all good. It all fit. And it turned out somebody turned me on to the Tao at that time. But I also came to understand that Sid's concept of mind, the energy that that powers us all, I suddenly felt to be in touch with all that. Also, Sid in Missing Link, he says that, I think it's page 34, that as we progress, that the illusionary gap between subject and object disappears. And I actually, it was a couple years ago where I spent a little bit of time kind of contemplating that, and I suddenly realized that if I could perceive it, it was my life. There was no separation between, there is no me in here and life out there. It's there is only life. It's all in my perception. I am not schooled in the three principles. I am a student of them. Nobody has directed my studies. And so when I hear people talk about we can't control thought, well, I'm sorry. If we couldn't control thought, we couldn't learn to play a musical instrument. We couldn't converse in English. We couldn't follow a recipe. We couldn't read or write a book. We obviously control thought. We do it all the time. And it's my belief currently that what we actually do have control is of our consciousness, of our awareness, that we can focus on the little things that make up our lives that we might be judgmental about, have our own little opinions of, but I find that the further away from me personally I focus my attention, the better my thoughts tend to get. I think more in sort of universal terms, what is true for all of us, and it seems to be serving me well. I am just delighted when I say I've been worse. I'm not sure I've ever been better, and just every day is better than the one before it.
That's so wonderful to hear, man.
Now we're back to that sound thing. I have book up if you want to type questions to me.
I guess what.
See, now I can't hear you at all.
Have you turned the sound down?
Hang on. And okay, see, I am right now hearing the dialogue that I had just delivered in the background.
Oh, maybe you have the live window open somewhere else. It might be showing.
That might be the case.
I've done that millions of times.
I wonder if, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I've done it loads. Don't worry about it.
Well, let me see.
So what I'm thinking is,
I think I may got it. Nope, I'm still hearing it. And, okay, see, I am right now hearing the dialogue that I had just delivered in the background.
Oh, maybe you have the live window open somewhere else. It might be showing.
That might be the case.
Millions of times. Sorry about that, guys. Having a bit of technical issues. Yeah, I just wanted to add to Jeff's point that whilst he just sorts out that little issue, that I found that once we forget, not forget ourselves, but we start putting our attention on others, and I don't mean like specifically in a focused way, but once we start thinking about ourselves less and thinking about other people, our life seems to improve anyway. And that, it seems like when I was really struggling with social anxiety, that all I could think about was how I was feeling and my problems and what was going on in my life. And nowadays I don't think about that so much. I still get caught up in my head about how I'm sounding or how I look sometimes, but it's not a constant thing for weeks on end or for years on end where it feels like it is part of who I was at the time. You okay, Jeff? You back?
Yeah, I think so. I killed Firefox and so it must have been a problem at my end. Are we good?
Awesome. So have you still got the echo going, or is it all right now?
No, I'm talking to you in real time, and I don't hear anything in the background. I'm sorry. I'm new to all this.
No need to apologize. It's fine.
Okay. I wanted to mention that summer of 2009, one of the books I read was not by Sid. It was by a fellow named Andrew Newberg, and it's How God Changes Your Brain. And in that book, he explores various contemplative practices. The Dalai Lama's monks had functional MRIs done, but also people engaging in chant and various other practices. And it turned out what I took from the book, and it's not explicit in there, that so long as my brain was engaged in activity that was contemplative, the parts of my brain that light up on the MRI are the ones that are also responsible for empathy and compassion and serenity. And I it only took a couple of weeks. I asked myself, is it true? That's Byron Katie's question. But every time that I came across something, if it's not true for everybody, if it's not true, I was seeing 100 people a week at meetings, and if it's not true for all 100 of them, then I just decided it wasn't true, and I started looking for what I believe Sid calls is divine consciousness and divine mind. And it was I no longer felt like people got up early to put themselves in front of me on the freeway. In fact, how do I get my way on a freeway? It just didn't make sense anymore. Suddenly I became not very important. The idea that I might be entitled to anything, just I truly felt there for a while that I was deserving of not my next breath. That in terms of entitled to, I did not deserve my next breath, and I was grateful for everything that happened. And boy, that just turned things around for me. Just understanding that life is not about me. That life is absolutely beautiful, absent my judgment about it. and so I kind of started adjusting, and it was really, truly abrupt that I became aware of which of my thoughts were opinions. And suddenly, me standing in the backyard in the middle of the night, the trucks that used to annoy me, I realized that if I could perceive them, they were part of my life, that there was no separation between me and life. And suddenly I felt connected to everybody. I kind of let go of fear, and some of you that have seen me on Facebook know that I am not bashful about saying the words "I love you," and there's no reason not to. If I am not protecting something, if I'm not fearful about something about me, I keep reading that absent fear, all there is love, and I am just. I attend 3 meetings a week that have probably a total of nearly 100 people there. I spend much of my time exploring ways not to fix myself, but to metaphors. If we're using words, it's all metaphor for this formless thing that I'm coming to believe is just love. But more and more, that was a big thing for me with the principle. Sid told me for the first time in my life that I was okay, that I didn't need to be fixed, that there's nothing wrong with me. And from that point of view, I was suddenly able to read without personalizing it. I recently heard Michael Neal talk where he talked, or maybe it was written, where he talked about one of his clients just couldn't put this to use for himself in his own life. And so Michael suggested, well, why don't you think about how other people might put it to use in theirs? And that turn in that client produced tremendous results, and that was the same thing for me. Now when I read, I look at what is true for all of us, and I believe that there is discoverable truth, the capital T truth out there. We can all find it. It's in plain sight. Sid found it. I am eternally grateful that he was able to put it into a description that fits with Western culture. I think Eastern culture, they kind of had that down pretty well. But the whole concept of mind, thought, and consciousness, I just suddenly life is not about me. I understand it's of my own making, and it's not until I can get my own making out of the way that I was able to see without judgment what there is out there. And now I feel like I'm I wasn't expecting to monologue But I'm feeling way more comfortable now than I was with the sound problem earlier.
Yeah, I can see that. It's so lovely what you're sharing, Jeff. And yeah.
I at the Wednesday meeting last week, we had 43 people in there, and the clock on the wall actually ticks out loud, and I am entirely comfortable with hearing the clock tick. I guess that probably doesn't make for very good hangouts. The two of us sitting here listening to the clock tick, but I'm pretty good in the quiet. My own personal exploration now is that I understand that I am life, that I can't separate myself from my experience of life, that it is all one thing, it is all me. I'm starting to consider whether or not I'm it. That instead of it all being me, that I am... I was at one of the other hangouts the other day. I don't remember which one, but it seems to me that there's kind of a consensus amongst a bunch of us that life is just unfolding in amazing ways, and it comes to waitresses and waiters at restaurants. If I happen to go there, the gas attendant last night, I just people meet me with warmth, with a positive attitude, and it happens over and over and over. It seems like it's them, but I'm starting to believe that it must be me because it's kind of pervasive through my life. Facebook has been wonderful. I've been there 4 months, and I truly I've had telephone conversations with people who've are following me that kind of like what I do on Facebook. I'm able to connect people who have with people who need. Most of the fun that I have on Facebook happens off my page. It happens in the private messages and phone calls and so on that go on behind. And it's keeping me plenty busy. But the more busier I get, the more I want to be doing. And I think the same is true for you. I can see in your eyes that you are absolutely delighted. Delighted is a word I never used to use, and now I use delighted an awful lot. But this is nice. This is just really nice. Ask me something, please.
Sure. You're doing great. It's awesome listening to you. I can listen to you all night. Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that, really. I've just connected with more people over the past year than I ever have done, because I haven't been thinking about myself so much. And like on the train home, I went away for the weekend and I got the train back, and I was just having a chat with the guy next to me, and I was a little bit cautious, like the old cautious thinking popped up, and you shouldn't talk to people you don't know and all that. I kind of just let go of that, and then had a wonderful conversation with this guy who was a musician, and he gave me his card. And you know, most people don't do that in life. It's like you sit next to someone on the train and they could be an alien or something. You don't. It's kind of seen as not normal to talk to them. Maybe more so in the UK, I don't know. But people seem to be more friendly in America in general. But
I took a flight on Valentine's Day, and this may be a 3 or 5 minute story, but it's heartwarming. I was my mother-in-law had some health problems, and they spent their summer winters in Texas, and they had to fly back and left their car there, and so I was going to retrieve their car. Valentine's Day there was a blizzard on the East Coast, and the staff that the crew that they needed for the flight I was supposed to be taking couldn't get to Minneapolis Airport. And so I was immediately stranded at the airport. I was there with, I mean, everybody was stranded at the airport. The snowstorm on the East Coast caused massive, massive tie-ups. And I was at the gate with 22 passengers that were on their way to Israel for a pilgrimage, and they were lamenting and I said, you know, in 10 years when you tell this story of your trip to Israel, it's going to start with that being stranded at the Minneapolis airport. Israel's not going anywhere, and if you want to give God a laugh, tell him your plans. And they hadn't heard that. My day I just seemed to have a calm influence over everybody, and once the plane came to my gate, I walked up to the gate attendant, a woman who was probably about my age, and I asked her, I just looked her in the eyes and I said, how's your day going? And she'd been handling complaints and important people all day long, and she got a tear in her eye. She says, nobody's asked about me all day. And we did what we did, and moments later she started boarding the aircraft, and typically there's two gate agents, and one of them goes for ice and the other one starts pre-boarding. Well, in this case, the one that went for ice didn't take the dead ice off the airplane, so the one that was supposed to be helping people pre-board had this sack full of water. I mean, it was an instant puddle. She had nowhere to set it down. If she set it down, it would have spilt all over the floor. So I offered to help her. And I said, may I help? And she said, can you? And I said, well, I was a Boy Scout. I have skills. I can tie a knot in that bag. And so she laughed, and she helped people onto the aircraft, and I was one of the last to board. And as I walked by her, and I just have a thing about hair that is the color that it is, not from a bottle. And she had hair on her shoulders, and it was just as God intended. And so as I walked by and she took my ticket from me, I said, I really like your hair. I pulled down mine and pointed to hers. I went and got on the airplane. And 10 minutes later, as they were about to close the door, she let herself onto the airplane and came to my seat and thanked me for being her passenger that day, on what was probably the hardest travel day for all winter long for everybody in the industry. And she let herself onto the airplane to be grateful that I was her passenger. And I still can't talk about it without getting tears in my eyes, but I didn't do anything. I just got the hell out of my own way. And I'm willing to be kind. I mean, there's nothing to protect in me anymore. People sometimes are uncomfortable because I'll catch their gaze and hold it. And the fact is I used to divert my eyes because I always felt like if you knew the real me, you wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. And I no longer feel that way. I am delighted with whatever is going on inside of me, and I will, and some people are entirely comfortable with me catching their eye and holding it. Some people kind of get a little self-conscious, think I'm doing something to them on purpose. I'm good. You have seen all over my Facebook page, I love you. And it doesn't matter much who the you are, you are. I love you all. How's that work? Look at your face.
That's the effect you're having on me.
I am just delighted. I really couldn't be more delighted. The Wednesday meeting that I study for, we run from 24 to 4 people in a room. It's been going on for 10 years. I've been its host for the last 1 year, kind of a co-host for a year before that, and I've probably over the years been to, well, if there's 50 meetings a year, I've been to 300 probably of those meetings. We're really lucky here in town. We have Christine Heath is from here, Joe Bailey is from here, Mary White is from here, Kathy Marshall's been teaching 3 principles at the University of Minnesota for decades. Craig Paulfus, who was just on Supermind, I think, is here. I know several of those people personally. I see them occasionally. And we have tremendous resources. There's 12 meetings a week that are peer sober support meetings within driving distance of where I live. And so you're not very far from, I mean, none of us here are very far from a meeting. And I know there's, I don't know that there is any place else on earth that has this much 3 principles resources available.
So you mentioned Joe Bailey. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. What was your? How did you come across what he was up to?
I have known Joe wrote the Serenity Principle, which was the Bible. Essentially, it was the curriculum for treatment back in 2005. I didn't know at the time that he lived right here in town. And it wasn't long before I met him. I have been in I watched it, and Tony Erebus had a conversation going on kind of in the background that was separate from, well, I made a good friend there. Her name is Marion, and she had some things to say about Joe's talk, and it turns out she was actually thinking Joe was you. I have a great friend there. She and I exchange stuff on. I don't know what to say about Joe. I know him on a personal level. I see him several times a month. That you're thinking is way more important than the contents of what you're thinking, and that's been really, and I don't know if this goes to your Joe Bailey question, but I'm convinced that if I'm recognizing my thoughts, I'm looking at the past. They have already occurred. There's no way to control that which has already happened. That's already part of what is. That's what I must be okay with. It's just as it must be. But knowing that that it's our capacity to create thought that I think Sid was talking about, that I can turn around and look upstream and recognize that that there'll be another one along, and I just am constantly amazed by sometimes how far afield my thoughts go, but they're not. I am being thought in the same way as I'm being breathed. I meditate frequently enough to know that I'm not the one doing the breathing. If you don't believe that yourself, just exhale and sit there. You'll find yourself inhaling before long against your own will. And the whole, can I run through real quick just kind of what I do on Wednesdays about mind consciousness and thought?
Yeah, sure.
Would that be okay? I'm 63 years old. 64 years ago, the universe was completely intact. All the stuff, all the parts and pieces, all the energy, all the things, the dust, the stars, the space in between them. But it didn't include me. And several moments later, it did. And I didn't make the universe bigger when that happened. And I didn't take anything from it, make it smaller. I am obviously not from the universe. I am of the universe. I am part of it. And that same energy that powers me powers us all. We share that as our source. Without attributing benevolence or intelligence or any therefores to it, that is what I believe Sid was describing when he described mind. As I developed, there came a point where my mom, before I was born, knew whether I was aware, conscious or not, because if I was sleeping, I wasn't kicking the hell out of her. I think our consciousness comes to us before we're fully formed as infants. And perhaps my first or my earliest thoughts on my birth or afterwards were that, hey, the last time I cried, somebody picked me up, and that felt good. And so I'm going to try that again. And the point I'd really like to make, especially for those in recovery, is those three principles were at work in me as an infant. The three principles are called principles because they apply to all of us all the time. There are no exceptions, and it's true whether we know it to be true or not, which means that I was creating my life from these three principles before I ever attended school, before I had my first drink, the whole time I was drinking, my whole 110 days and 3 different treatments. There is no 3 principles versus 12 steps. That would be like saying, well, should I do 12 steps or should I continue breathing? That's not a choice that you even have. And me understanding that these 3 principles underlie the 12 steps makes 6 of those steps really, really palatable. And they really, really weren't when I first went through them. And so, for instance, me understanding that we are all doing the best we can given what we understand at the time, kind of is separate realities, but it means that my parents were doing the best they can. And so when I do an inventory and I'm supposed to look at resentment I have towards my parents, who are both dead now, I can't find any. They were doing the best they could. All of a sudden that inventory thing becomes a no-brainer. I don't have resentments. They're just gone. And the big book talks about acceptance. And knowing that we're all doing the best we can, I have dropped the word should to a very large extent from my vocabulary. I'm not going to tell you all is as it should be, because that implies that somewhere there's a plan and I have approval rights. There is no should be. All is as it must be. If it could be different, it would be different. And that kind of removes my stupid little opinions, my judgments of what my life is fine until I judge it. And acceptance, I believe, transcends forgiveness. I don't know how to forgive somebody and let go of victimhood. On the other hand, if I accept everything and realize that blame has no place, blame is not useful, whether I accept it or whether I am bestowing it. It's not useful. It's about something in the past. The past is done. I can't change it. It's part of what is. And just acceptance becomes that there's nothing to be forgiven any longer. There is only what is. There is no blame. There is no, and I think Sid got that. I've heard him say in his lectures that life equals love equals forgiveness, and it's not a forgive this and don't forgive that kind of thing. It's an all in or not thing. It's if you're living from love, there's nothing to forgive. It's not a matter of forgiveness. It's a matter of acceptance. And I'm hogging this conversation, but I'm delighted to do it. Ask me another question.
You're not hogging it at all. It's lovely. Yeah, I wanted to open it up for a couple of questions. If anyone watching this wanted to ask Jeff anything, just post an email below excuse me, below this video and send us an email. So I think what I wanted to ask was I don't know, what would you say to someone who's been through similar things to you, and you know, someone in the future might be watching this, and I know it's hard to say when you're not speaking directly to someone, but what comes to mind when what would you say to your yourself, what would you say to yourself before you came across these principles?
If I hadn't been where I was, I wouldn't be where I am, and so I'm grateful for it all. But I wish that somebody had brought to me far earlier in my life the idea of God or a higher power or the spirit or the force or something without anthropomorphic references. In other words, the idea of God needing to have a gender, it's a he or a face or a lap or a knee or a sun or benevolence or intelligence. Were just concepts that my concept of God, if you will, with a capital G, is bigger than that. It encompasses everything, and to assign gender makes it smaller than what my concept was. And so I think I probably never was an atheist, but as long as I believed that it was. As long as I believed I was the center of the universe, I was doomed. And I truly believe that heaven exists right here on earth, and so does hell. And me being important is hell. I don't want to be important. I don't want to be right. I don't want to be influential. That's why I talked to you about this in the emails. I didn't even want to be here. I don't have answers. I'm finding that questions are not even useful. The questions generally come from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. And if I just allow myself to move to a higher level of consciousness, the answers are all right there. Trust yourself. You have this. We all have this. We are powerful beyond our own beliefs if we drop our beliefs. It's beyond words. It just absolutely is. Words diminish it, but words. If you think about it, life is about feelings. I was present at the birth of both of my children, and I can describe that to you. I can't make you feel the way I felt, and there is nothing in words that would ever put you there. It happened without. I didn't need thought. It was a feeling. It was an awareness. It was. I didn't need cognitive thought. I love Jill Bolte Taylor. I love the stroke of insight, where she lost cognitive thought for a very long period of time, and was delighted to do so. I mean, her experience was. There are so many. I'm sitting here a little blissed out. I don't know. You need to direct this. This is just delightful, and I can see your face. Go ahead. What are you going to ask me?
Yes, fun. Well, we're nearly coming to the end. Believe it or not, it's just gone so quickly. It's been brilliant. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad to finally meet you face to face and actually share some words. I was beyond 50 before I learned to type, and I'm told that my typing is barely legible. It's way better than my handwriting, but it's I'd much rather talk to people face to face than have to type and spell check and commas and semicolons and all that crap. This is I'm delighted. I really am. I want to thank you for asking me. And I don't have my glasses on because they reflect the screen back at you, so I have no idea where we are for time.
Okay, you can't see my beautiful face then.
Oh no, I see your face. I just can't see the clock.
Well, we've got it's 10 to 8 now.
Oh, cool.
It feels like a good time to wrap up, unless you wanted to.
I'm gonna catch Dickin.
Yeah. Well, you go and have a coffee break, and then you can chill out with Dickin.
Just if this is over with, I want you to know, and anybody else that ever should, I love you.
Oh.
Oh. We could. I'd be delighted to sit here for another 5 minutes just chuckling. But yeah, believe it or not, I have this experience a lot with people where we just kind of sit and look at each other and laugh. Just life is so good when it's not about me. It really is.
Mm. Yeah, I'm experiencing that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking this might be the boringest hangout anybody's ever seen, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you didn't listen to your insecure thinking and decide to cancel on me. No, I know you wouldn't have. It really is a pleasure to have you on there, Jeff. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more about what's going on in your life in the future. So.
Well, I'm not bashful that nobody would ever have accused me of being shy in my life. I'm just kind of right out there, but I am delighted these days. I truly am. I have nothing to hide. I am just absolutely delighted to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone.